Alright, so Jalen Hurts is officially back, and just ahead of the Eagles' playoff matchup with Green Bay, QB1 put the Packers on notice, as despite being out several weeks with a concussion, a few of Hurts' teammates just revealed that he hasn't missed a beat, and he looks ready to go off in the Birds' playoff opener against Green Bay. Meanwhile, the Eagles also just got an unexpected update on Packers quarterback Jordan Love, as it seems like the elbow injury he suffered in the regular season finale may be affecting him a little bit more than we initially thought. And in addition to that unexpected injury update, we also just got one on A.J. Brown that isn't exactly ideal. Plus, the Birds just made a surprising roster move as Howie Roseman went out and signed another Georgia Bulldog who also happened to be a first-round pick just a few years ago. So why does it look like this move could wind up paying off? We're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles. And let's start off with a really interesting and I also think underrated move that the Birds just made yesterday, as they went out and signed another former Georgia Bulldog and defensive back Lewis Cine to the active roster, while they also opened the practice window for defensive tackle Byron Young. And again, I think that this is a very interesting move because Cine was a first-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings just a couple years ago in 2022, so he clearly has a lot of talent and potential, and judging by this graph, you can actually see that he is very athletic and he has some impressive physical traits aside from his weight. Plus, in his time at Georgia, not only was he a leader for their historically great defense, but in terms of his play on the field, he was known as a very hard-hitting safety that could tackle well and also just make plays on the back end. So again, it's clear that he has talent and potential. It's just that things didn't quite go according to plan to begin his NFL career, as he unfortunately suffered a compound fracture in his left leg in week 4 of his rookie season, which cost him the entire year. And when he did return, he was pretty much just a special teams player for Minnesota, and most recently this season, he has spent the year on the Buffalo Bills practice squad. So I'm sure it's definitely not the start to his career that Cine had imagined, but now that he's in Philly, he has a chance to have a fresh start, as not only is the fact that he was signed to the active roster a clear indication that the Eagles believe he can become a good player eventually, but it's also an ideal situation for him given that he's obviously former teammates with all the other Philly Dogs. So there's a ton of comfortability and familiarity there, and that's something that he talked about in his first press conference with the Birds on Wednesday.
Man, everything kind of happened fast, but just soaking it in, taking it in. I've already met all the guys and then some old faces. So, I'm just happy to be here.
What's it like to be back on the team with so many Georgia teammates?
It feels like a reunion, if I'm being honest. Walked in, it was all love, all dabs, hugs and whatnot, catching up. So it's really, really good to see the guys.
Again, I think here in Philly is really just the perfect situation for Cine to revive his career, because in addition to the familiarity he has with a lot of the guys and the fact that the Eagles clearly believe in him, his defensive coordinator is now Vic Fangio, who we know just based on what he's done this year gets the absolute most out of his players. So even though I don't expect Cine to contribute really at all this year on defense, I am excited for what he could possibly become in the future. Plus, it seems like the Eagles have been eyeing this move for a while now, as this clip from around a month ago makes it seem like Jordan Davis knew Cine was coming to Philly.
Maybe the extra gift is for another Georgia Bulldog coming soon.
Yeah, let's just see. It's suspense killing me.
Oh!
That's a C for cat.
C for champion, maybe? C for Christmas! Yeah!
C for Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you can convince me that that C didn't stand for Cine at this point. But now, switching over to another Philly Dog, we look at Jalen Carter, who was just named as a first-team All-Pro on the NFLPA's 2024 All-Pro team, which, if you don't know, this isn't the standard All-Pro team that everyone talks about. This one rather is a list voted on by the players, but that's obviously still a huge honor, as it shows that Carter's peers around the league recognize how much of a force he is on the interior and how much of an impact he makes for the Eagles' #1 ranked defense, as he's honestly arguably their best player, so it's great to see him get recognized as such here. And same goes for Saquon Barkley on the offensive side of the ball, as he was also voted first-team All-Pro by the NFLPA. So, like Carter, this is very well deserved, and it's just nice seeing Eagles players getting their shine and respect from others around the league. That being said, there were also some notable snubs from the NFLPA All-Pro teams, such as Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, and Zach Baun. So, I can't say I agree with that, and I definitely think the players got to be better there, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And at least a couple of those previously mentioned snubs were shown some love by PFF on their All-Pro teams, as Jordan Mailata was the highest graded player in the entire NFL by PFF this year, and he made their first team All-Pro. And linebacker Zach Baun also got some much deserved credit, as he was also named first team All-Pro on their list, as well as their 2024 Breakout Player of the Year. So that's definitely nice to see, and it's just very well deserved for a guy who went from a role player with the Saints to someone who I think, if he had a bigger name, probably would be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, as he just had a historic season. That said though, as much as it's nice to see PFF give Mailata and Baun and some other Eagles their credit, they also have Saquon Barkley graded as just the 10th highest graded running back in the NFL this season, and it goes without saying that that's just completely ridiculous, as he obviously just became one of the few guys to ever rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season, and overall, he just had one of the greatest seasons for a running back of all time. So for him to be graded 10th at that position this season alone just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and it just goes to show you that you can't take PFF's grading too seriously. And overall, I think the takeaway is that as much as it's cool to see who gets all these awards and accolades at the end of the season, it really doesn't matter that much at the end of the day. Now, will I be interested to see who actually makes the All-Pro teams and who wins the major awards? Yeah, of course I will, but again, that's not really what's important when it comes down to it. And on the contrary, what is important right now for the Eagles is their upcoming wildcard playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. And based on some recent comments from a few of the players in press conferences, it seems like they are 100% locked in ahead of the matchup.
You kind of feel, you take advantage. You want to take advantage of every opportunity like this. Not everybody gets this opportunity to play in the playoffs. Man, I was just on Snapchat looking at my guys' stories, and they all, Instagram, they all on the beach or in Miami, and I'm like, yeah, we in the cold working. So it's an opportunity and it's a privilege.
I feel like guys are confident, we're loose, but we're remaining with what got us here, and that's practicing hard and how we do things every day, and all that stuff carries over.
You can't change what's been successful. You can't change it because, again, the hype around it is generated by the media, the fans. But for us, it's the next game. As dumb as that sounds, or as simple as it sounds, that's how you have to approach it. Because if you start changing things up now, that's a lot of pressure added that you don't need. So our message this week has always been stay grounded and keep the same thing the same thing. Keep your same routine. Everyone understands what's at stake, but the game is going to be the game. The game's going to be a game. You got to go out there and play how you've been playing all year. There's no need to change it up, and that's the message.
Man, I just absolutely love those comments from all those guys there, especially Mailata, and it certainly does sound like it's just business as usual for the Eagles as they prepare for this wildcard game, and like Mailata said, you can't have it any other way. And the Eagles coaches are certainly making sure everybody is prepared as possible for their first playoff game, as for the first time in a while, the Birds had pads on during their Wednesday practice session, as in contrast to the end of the regular season, teams are actually permitted to have one padded practice per week during the playoffs, so the Eagles are taking full advantage of that as they try to make sure that they are as ready as possible for this playoff game. And somebody that seems fully ready to go is quarterback Jalen Hurts, as after finally returning to practice this week, he just possibly put the Packers on notice with what he was able to do. So don't worry, we're going to get into that and more in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this coming throughout this entire playoff run and also moving forward after that, then make sure you guys subscribe and also really, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss any of the Eagles coverage or content I got coming on this channel. I cover the Birds pretty much daily here, so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Eagles news, this is the spot. So again, subscribe and turn on notifications. And also drop a like as well to show some support. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes today. And now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So obviously, the big storyline this week for the Eagles leading into their playoff matchup with the Packers has been the status of Jalen Hurts. And yesterday, they got the news that everybody has been waiting for, as QB1 was back out there on the practice field in limited fashion for the first time since suffering a concussion nearly 3 weeks ago. Now, technically, he still has to officially clear concussion protocol to return this Sunday, but it's pretty much a given that that is going to happen, and who knows, maybe by the time you're watching this video, he already has been cleared. However, with Hurts set to make his return to action on Sunday, some people have questioned whether he might be rusty or not, just considering that he hasn't practiced since the injury up until yesterday, and he won't have played in a game for 3 weeks by the time the Eagles do face the Packers. However, based on some comments from a few of Hurts' teammates, it seems like rust should not be a concern.
I was telling him he looked really sharp. It was really like his first time back, full speed, and we had a crisp practice. He's been dialed in. He's been limited what he can do physically, obviously, but mentally he's sharp, and on top of stuff. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been limited, physically with some of the stuff he can do, but I think he's been dialed in with what's coming up, who we're playing in Green Bay. So, today we had our first practice back with him. He was crisp, efficient, and we had a great practice.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Anytime you can have your quarterback, out there on the practice field back, with the guys out there. It's a great feeling. He's a great player, and we trust him. We trust him a lot. So it's great to see him back out there.
You had to ask him how he felt. In my eyes, it looked good.
Sharp. It looked sharp, I'll be honest. It looked really sharp. Brought a lot of energy. He was out there in short sleeves. I've been in his position before with concussion, and when you miss time, you try and find ways to get back as fast as you can. But I think he did a great job of dealing with that and coming back as sharp as he did today. And I thought he had a phenomenal practice. So that's just me, though.
Yeah, so it certainly sounds like Jalen Hurts has not missed a beat since going out with that concussion, and that only gives me confidence that he's going to be able to go out there against the Packers and pick up right where he left off. And if I'm Green Bay, then that's definitely a little scary, because the rest of this Eagles team is already firing on all cylinders as is, so when you add Jalen back into the mix, who's just obviously a dynamic weapon that's going to elevate both the pass and run game for the Birds, and if he's playing his best ball, that only makes them harder to go up against. But moving on, we also did just get a rather big and also unexpected update on the other starting quarterback in this matchup, as now a few days removed from suffering some sort of elbow injury that caused him to lose some feeling in his throwing hand. Packers quarterback Jordan Love was back out on the practice field on Wednesday, but somewhat surprisingly, it was only in limited fashion. And I say this is a little surprising just because after the Packers' final regular season game against the Bears, all the updates on Love's injury were very much positive. I mean, head coach Matt LaFleur said that Love was cleared to go back into the game, but they just held him out for precautionary reasons, and he also said that Love would be good to go for Sunday against the Eagles. And Love himself said the same thing when he was asked about it too.
What's your chances for Philadelphia?
Yes.
I mean, from the sound of all that, you really wouldn't think that Love's injury was any concern at all. Plus, when he was asked about the injury and his chances to play against the Eagles, he seemed to be a little less confident than he was back on Sunday.
Is it the funny bone? I mean, like everybody's had happened. Yeah. Nothing funny about it.
No, definitely not.
So you're playing Sunday.
We'll see, yeah, I'm hopeful.
Now look, do I expect Jordan Love to miss this playoff game? No, not at all. And in all likelihood, I think the Packers are just trying to play their cards close to the vest and keep the Eagles on their toes as they prepare for this one, but I do think that it is noteworthy that, again, Love did seem a little bit less confident about his injury status than he did on Sunday after suffering the injury, and the fact that he was limited at practice Wednesday tells me that it's something that is still definitely affecting him, at least a little bit. And he even admitted there that his elbow was still causing him some discomfort, so this is definitely going to be something to watch leading into and during the matchup, and I'll be curious to see how much, if at all, the injury does affect Love, because if it does, that obviously changes the matchup and makes things even harder for the Packers. And on the Eagles side of things, I think you could probably say something very similar about A.J. Brown, as we just got some surprising news on him from the Birds practice today, being that at least during the early portion of practice that is open to the media, A.J. was nowhere to be found. And this comes after A.J. was a limited participant in practice yesterday due to what was listed as knee/rest, which was nothing new considering that he has been getting rest during practice for several weeks now after getting his knee a little banged up back during the Steelers game. However, the fact that he simply was not at practice today after being limited yesterday definitely doesn't seem like a great sign. Now, the good news is that shortly after the reports came out that AJ wasn't at practice, reporter Jeff McClain tweeted out that the expectation is that Brown will still play on Sunday, and him not practicing is possibly just maintenance related, so we can breathe a little sigh of relief there. But still, again, the fact that Brown is missing practice just a few days away from a playoff game certainly isn't ideal, because he's obviously a huge piece of the Eagles offense, and if the injury just so much as limits him and his abilities out on the field in any way, that could very much negatively impact the Eagles offense now that we're in the playoffs playing against all good teams. So hopefully he's okay and the knee injury doesn't affect him at all, but this will no doubt be something to monitor moving forward. So I'll make sure to keep you guys updated on that whole situation, just as well as on all the other Eagles news leading into this matchup with the Packers. And again, if you guys don't want to miss any of that, then make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Again, let's see if we can get to 600 likes on today's video, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some stuff from earlier in the week, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.